Evening all, welcome to the the repairing of the damage that I did because I'm a noob, and it's going relatively well. And what we're going to look at today is the engines being rebuilt. Now let me just explain again, while this is going on in the background, let's just talk about the dynamics of this game. First off, you have to obviously build a load of blocks and stick them together. And now that may sound like a massive oversimplification, and it is really, but this is pretty much the context of the game. Once you've done that, you have to then build engines, and engines work in exactly the same way as they do in IRL. You can only provide thrust in one direction or the other, or in this case, a three-dimensional plane, X, Y, and Z. Now, you then have, obviously, X, Y, and Z in both directions. So you actually have 6 axes of movement. So in essence, you go forward and back. So your forward engines are obviously your main engines, and your engines pointing the other way from the direction of travel are then your retro thrusters. Now they're quite important because they slow you down, so they should at least be half of the power of your forward firing engines. What you then have on the sides, as you see here, are your movement thrusters, left and right. Now if you don't have these, your ship lists, as in it will then drift. It just drifts in space. And then you see up and down, but the top and bottom we have the 2 and the 3 as you see there. Now you don't have to match the same. I actually only have 4 in total on the top, but I'm probably going to build a whole array of engines at the front of the ship as well. So there'll be literally the whole front and back will have a whole array. As you can see, I'm just charging my suit up here. But in essence, this is how the game is set up, is that you need to have all 6 directions of travel. Is it 6? Yeah, 6 directions of travel covered with at least one engine, so the thing can effing slow down. Now, this ship is a heavy ship. It's about 5 million tons, something like that, and that means it's a bit of a beast to slow down. So in fact, it's 5,000 tons. There you go. So when this thing starts to break, it needs a lot of power to obviously move forward and back, left, right, up, down. So 2 engines on either side here is not going to cut it, but it will do for now. And in essence, what I was going to basically build would then be covers around these engines so they don't take damage from weapons and God knows what, as you see on the top and bottom there. So that's the plan, basically. We're still rebuilding and repairing this bloody thing as well. And one of the new additions that they've actually included with the latest patch is you can now actually also drop colored engines as well, which is a nice feature. So you can actually color code your engines as well, which I quite like. And we'll show a bit more of that maybe next time. But I think at the moment, the key for me is to fix this bloody ship and get it out the way of more meteorites, because there is always the risk of more things hitting us. And just as I'm doing this, I know that I got hit again because I felt, I heard the ship go bang, and it was like, oh, for God's sake, what now? And I went to the front of the ship, as you'll see maybe in this video or next, and I had another bloody hole in the ship. But anyway, so as you see, we're basically moving that single engine there, which was always too weak, and we're at least making one of these engines work. So that engine's now online, which is good. And we need to get this second one online as well. And we need to do the same on the other side. But in essence, once I've got that, I can then move the ship. So I just fast forward a little bit there. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of getting all the parts I need to get all these things working. And then we're kind of good and running. This is probably one of the frustrations of the game, is that it's often you find that you just never have enough parts on you. So I think one of the things I'd love to do is have some form of a bigger inventory. I don't know how they do it. Maybe it's some form of drone that follows you. I don't know, we'll see. But I just like the idea of having that capability, just to not have to constantly run back and forward through what is effectively quite a big ship to go and get my parts. But there we go, that's life for you. I think if I was going to give a recommendation, when you make things in this game, build them from the blueprint on the far left. Just say to yourself, right, I want a large engine, build me one please, and just make sure you've got all the minerals, press the button and let the assembler just build everything. That way you can bundle it all into your cargo and you know you've got it. For most of the modules in the game, you can do that with one cargo hold full of items, okay, if you're running on a relatively, like ×3 realism. And it just makes life a lot easier. So there we go, our second engine comes online. That's looking rather sweet. And so we now have, I think, at least reassurance that I can move this thing. So the left and right ones also look like they're online. That's looking pretty good. I'm just going to repair some of these things. But I think it's getting time to move the ship. Now, moving the ship is obviously going to be a bit of a I guess, a tactical thought process, because the last thing you want to do is move it where it's even more danger. Most asteroids seem to fly from the sun, so if you basically look at the sun, then the asteroids are flying away from it in that direction, okay? Now, it's difficult to kind of gauge where they kind of spawn and where they won't. So there is a bit of a kind of luck of the play going on here, but what effectively you want to do is you want to place your ship in somewhere that is not going to be hit all the effing time. Look at that. See, that's what I'm talking about. That is new damage right there. That's exactly what I'm on about. Urgh, God. Now, I don't mind, but it's just like, oh, for God's sake, just stop hitting my ship, for God's sake. As you see, there's a little bit more painting to be done. Can't move it until it's painted, bro. That's the law. Come on, there we go. And, energy see's a bit low. But anyway, so this thing should, in theory, now fly. So let's go and recharge and move this thing. And once we've moved it, we then know that we're not going to get kind of walloped every 5 minutes from, passing asteroids as they appear. But look at that. It's looking pretty good, isn't it? I mean, that's, considering what it was maybe at the start of last video to what it is maybe now, that ain't bad, bro. And I think just needs a little bit more paint. But the next step, I think, is to do a massive resource collection. So at the moment, I'm running low on certain resources as well. So I think I just need to go and mine. I need to spend a whole day mining, just fill up the coffers, and then start building parts again. And I think what I'm going to do, and also I'm going to do a bit cunning here, is I won't necessarily mine for all of these parts. I may just go and salvage. So there's lots of ships always flying through, and I think it's probably not a problem just to sit there with a grinding tool and just grind out everything slowly, because, well, it's quite good to do that. I just find it maybe a bit easier to do, but we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not sure. Look at this bloody damage again. It's good to see the light armor plate can take some damage, but again, I would stress it's not good. I think heavy armor will probably not deform as much, and it will withstand more. Look at that bit to the right. I just saw that as well. I have to go and get that repaired. But I think just generally, it's going to always be something to bear in mind. Environmental hostility, I think, is now here to stay, and I think we've only seen asteroids as one part of that. I think there'll be more. I think there'll be magnetic storms. I think there'll be just a whole host of different things. There could even be eventually one day NPCs that try and board your ship, and then you have to obviously fight them off. So I'm loving this idea as well. The ability to have the auto turrets inside the ship, also outside the ship defending me. I just cannot wait. I cannot wait. Seriously, I'm just overjoyed with what this game could eventually bring. I think, again, it's being developed well. I've got to admit, they're doing it pretty quick as well. It's always nice to see a game developed with speed. Every week they've released something new as well. So I think at the moment, a lot of the basics are there. And I think what they're trying to do is just finish the more complex pieces and include them gradually. And I think certainly the solar panels was a nice addition. I think the NPC ships is just excellent. So join us next time as we move the mighty ship into a bit more of a protective area. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.